All right. All right. Good morning. This is the Parsons Area Merchants Association February 2nd stakeholders meeting. This is being recorded. It will be posted to our YouTube channel, as in many, different organizations. Business owners may not be able to join us during their work hours or when they're very busy. So we do make this available through our email lists to other stakeholders who may not be able to join us in real time. So thank you for those of you who are able. Since it's a relatively small group, I wonder if it would be all right if folks would just come off mute and give their name and their interest. And I'm going to start with the city. So Nancy, Sully, and then Curtis, Carla, and Aaron, who are on the PAMA trustee board, and then it will come to the others. If you would, please. Nancy, are you able to come off mute? Oh.
I'm trying to. Kathy, can you see?
Yep. Can hear you.
Okay. I'm Nancy Pryor Sully, and I work for Columbus City Council in the Office of Community Engagement, and I have my beloved South Side.
And she's fabulous. I am Curtis Davis. I'm the Vice President of PAMA, also the Business at Large and Zoning Chair for the South Side Area Commission, and involved heavily in the South Side.
I'm Carla Fontaine. I am the treasurer for PAMA and on the executive board. I work in community relations for Nationwide Children's Hospital, hence my interest in all things Southside.
She's also fabulous.
Thank you.
Aaron?
Yeah, thanks. Aaron Crease, real estate developer with Crease Companies. Number of projects in the South Side, revitalization and new construction, trustee of PAMA, and pretty heavily involved in the South Side. I don't know if I'm fabulous or not.
Thank you. You're all fabulous. All right. And Sherry dropped in the chat her introduction. So Sherry Quayle's the manager at the Appliance and Mattress Center at 1942 Parsons, and we're happy to have her engaged. Stephen, you want to go next?
Yeah, Stephen Murphy, senior account manager with JPS Print, and have not been with them, I think, about 6 months, but very impressed with their involvement and commitment to the South Side.
Thank you. And United Columbus? Okay, I think you're still on mute. Okay, well, I was expecting Kim Knights as another NCR leader to join us. And this, so the idea was to have a conversation around the NCR program and how other NCR leaders engage their stakeholders. So we can come back to that. I did want to make a couple announcements, and then I can start with covering the highlights of the NCR program initially, for those of you who aren't familiar with it. Nancy, did you have anything you wanted to raise for the city this morning?
Thank you, Kathy. Not really. I think that there was a great council meeting Monday night, which you can watch still. As Curtis mentioned, the Inspector General announcement is this morning. And I think that's everything. I'll put my contact info in the chat in case anybody would like to reach out to me about this or something else. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. All right, so please pay no attention to all my little sticky notes. Oh gosh, let me just change. Okay. All right. One of the topics I wanted to share this morning or mention or alert folks of is the city is in the process of onboarding their new small business coordinator. So as some of you know, the city within the economic development department supports the neighborhood commercial revitalization districts and also supports the small business agenda. And so you can see here in this email from Casa Ritchie, who is our city contact for NCR, that they're adding Ariana, and I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her last name for sure, Ulua Olavarieta, as the new small business coordinator. She has been the Small Business Development Center at Columbus State and director of the Latino Small Business Development group at Columbus State. So she has a lot of good background and a local presence versus bringing someone in from outside. We are going to be introduced to her through the NCR program. That date has not been confirmed as March 1st or 8th. But I would look forward to having her available for a future PAMA stakeholders meeting. All right, so I'm going to switch now to, all right, thank you, Nancy, for your chat. I'm going to switch now to the NCO program. So let's see. All right. So again, the Neighborhood Commercial Revitalization Program sits under the auspices of the Economic Development Department. I also wanted to mention an outreach from Councilmember Nick Bankston's staff yesterday. So there has been a reorganization of Columbus City Council. I think that was mentioned at our January stakeholders meeting. And Councilmember Bankston now is responsible for the economic development departments around the NCR program and also around the small business agenda. So his staff has reached out about efforts that they see as important for this coming year to revitalize the revitalization program, if you will. For some of you who've been around for a while, this NCR program has been in existence for quite some time. The different parts of the city that have been in and out of it, and you can kind of see here, this is Parsons Avenue. So PAMA represents the Parsons Avenue NCR district, which again is literally the businesses on Parsons Avenue between Livingston and Hossack. But it also, PAMA also has an interest in the entire Southside area through the Southside Area Commission boundaries. But you can see that there's also Franklinton, the Hilltop, East Main, King Lincoln areas and so on. And then Linden's kind of its own area. So that's how we're structured. And then you can also see here on the economic development page, the small business agenda with the current program that they're working on. Lisa Snyder is our secretary for PAMA, also our communications and governance committee chair, and she is with the Neighborhood Design Center and sits on the small business agenda committee, as I believe is Annie, who is another NCR leader. And that's our tie-in currently between NCR and small business. If you could scroll on down here, you'll see the NCR program. And what you'll see here is the same map that I previously showed. You'll also see 2 links to grants that have been offered in the past. So we did not have any grants offered in 2021. The grants that were selected in 2020 were executed throughout the month of 2021. And the program was scaled down a bit because what had happened previously is more grants were given out than money was budgeted for, and there wasn't the level of tracking that was required to ensure that all of those grants were kind of wrapped up in a timely manner. There were 5 grants awarded to Parsons Avenue, all of which are concluded. Again, that happened in the 2020 timeframe and wrapped up in 2021. There is currently no new dollars, the way I understand it, in the budget in 2022. So that'll be a conversation that we can have with Councilmember Bankston about how that money is allocated to the NCR program. I mentioned Lisa and the Neighborhood Design Center. The Neighborhood Design Center has been a participant in our meetings as well. And there's I believe a recording of some of the programs that they execute. They have their own contract with the city, but they do have a variety of design services that can be brought to bear for the NCR district. So if you have a specific interest in the design services, we can discuss with Lisa Snyder how their contract might be utilized to support that. They also are the ones that developed the monument, the Southside Monument, which is finally installed. Hooray. The lighting is not in yet, but the sign and the monument itself are there. And the Neighborhood Design Center will be working on a landscape plan for that to kind of tie that project all together. And we will have a dedication when the weather is more cooperative. A few other things that the Neighborhood Design Center can do for NCR is an inventory. So they are in the process of doing a commercial inventory. They do that, I believe, every 2 years on Parsons Avenue. They not only note which businesses are active and which business or commercial buildings are vacant, but they also do a subjective measure of the state of the exterior of the building and the signage. And so we can use that to perhaps, again, look for areas that we want to engage, either through one of the NCR programs, the Neighborhood Design Center programs, to assist those property owners or those businesses, in additional, efforts to bring the area to be more revitalized. They have a program called a block study where they can look at an entire block as its usage and its design, and they can also have some other funding through the Economic Development Department that they're still trying to exactly define the process for. So once we know more about that, we can bring that up to the other, the businesses, the stakeholders meetings and so on. So I kind of talked at a very high level about all of those topics. Are there any questions, or does anybody have anything they want to add to what I've covered so far? All righty. All right, well then let me talk a little bit about PAMA. I have had some conversations since our last stakeholders meeting with Stephanie McIntyre, who was on our last meeting and was very interested in PAMA's mission to support Parsons businesses. She had a conversation also with Brian Higgins, who's the executive director for Parsons Avenue Redevelopment Corporation. And then Brian and I also had a conversation about how Park and PAMA can work collectively together in support of the Avenue and Avenue businesses. I also had a conversation with Stephen Murphy, who's on the line, and had some interesting perspectives. Stephen, would you mind just giving a brief overview of how you presented the idea that communications fall into 3 different buckets and how nonprofits communicate?
Yeah, in my time and spending time with nonprofits, their directors and people that work in the field, did just notice the commonality of the messaging that needs to be done internally to make sure all the volunteers, associates understand what the mission is clearly and can deliver it to the potential clients. And then there's the external communication that needs to be put out to the people that need the services. And then the fundraising portion of it. So each one of those components have different moving parts and different people working on it. But to be able to identify those moving parts and work together to get and make sure the message is clear is very important.
Yeah, thanks. So our communications committee this past year focused on, kind of a rebrand, trying to think how they term it, kind of a value brand pyramid, if you will. And then, initiated the first set of newsletters, redid the Parsons area website, and then also our emails that go out to our stakeholders list. So I would say we've engaged a little more heavily around internal communication, and we've just started venturing into the external communication kind of area. One of the conversations I had with Brian was around some of the survey results that Park collected from Parsons businesses and also the residents around Parsons Avenue about what they expect from Parsons Avenue, what they're looking for. And it was a combination of topics, but there was kind of a theme, topic theme around infrastructure. I'm going to use that word. So cleanliness and safety. Some of you may know that there's been a perception in some of the neighborhoods, that Parsons Avenue isn't as safe as it could be. We have had situations in the past around prostitution and, kind of trying to ameliorate the prostitution, which of course is oftentimes related to human trafficking and drug addiction and other societal ills. I'll use that term. So there's that area. There's litter pickups. There's just city infrastructure. So as I mentioned in the last call, the city did put an effort into turning back on all of the streetlights that were out based on 311 tickets. So there's kind of a combination in that particular genre of working with the city and the city resources, whether it's public safety, public service, or utilities. And there's 3 different council members that have ownership for those different parts of the city government. And of course, we have also our city liaison officer, Beth Fairman-Kinney, who represents the Department of Neighborhoods and manages the 311 call center. So there's what we are proposing and will be proposed to the PAMA trustees next week at our regular meeting is a formation of an ad hoc committee. We had one previously around parking that we worked very closely with the Southside Area Commission, Public Service Committee, and the city staff that managed the parking within the city, but starting another ad hoc committee around public service. And it would have kind of 3 prongs, one of which would be working with city government agencies on things that are city infrastructure related. The second would be engaging the neighborhoods that front Parsons to ensure that they are invested in our businesses, invested honestly in the residences on Parsons, because it is a mixed use corridor, some parts more than others. And then lastly, engaging with the businesses themselves around tasks that the businesses should be aware of and undertaking for themselves. So that's the business engagement piece of that. And that would include things such as making sure people are aware of their requirements to maintain city sidewalks to the gutter. You know, they being aware that they can open 311 tickets for street tree dying, traffic lights out, graffiti in their immediate area, illegal dumping behind their businesses. I mean, there's a whole series of topics where businesses themselves can engage, and then also, you know, sidewalk clearing during the winter and things like that, right? So that we have them actively engaged in the process of ensuring that the avenue is clean and safe. And then once we kind of have clean and safe, we can move on to beautification. And there are various initiatives around that through like the art block at the corner of Whittier and Parsons, some of the engaging of some of the neighborhood groups around the green spaces on the avenue. So there's the desire that was came out of that survey to initiate and maintain more green spaces and more public art. There's some mural options perhaps that could be invested in, and some things of that nature. So that's one area that we want to engage the businesses, but also the greater community. So what I'd like to do is just, I have a second topic to come back to that, but that's the first topic. And so I'm interested in anyone that's participating today on what your priorities are for Parsons Avenue in that particular area, clean and safe, and then beautification. And I'm going to perhaps think about the business owners that are represented, especially. So, you know, Carla representing Nationwide Children's in this instance, Sherry, which is down in the Repulsac neighborhood area. Aaron has properties, not necessarily, well, you have one on Parsons, and Stephen with JPS Print, which is also on Parsons. If anyone wants to chime in on what they think about engaging businesses and the residential areas around some of those topics.
Miss Kathy, this is Nancy. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make a edit. You had said that Beth was in charge of 311. I took it to be that way. Neighborhoods is in charge of 311, and Beth works for the Department of Neighborhoods. So I didn't want everybody to go, oh, good, let's just deluge Beth with everything. So I just wanted to let everybody know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. And by the way, there is a map, and I didn't bring it up, but I'll see if I can bring it up here in a minute while we're talking. There is actually a map of all the 311 tickets that have been opened on Parsons Avenue. And I did look at that last week or the week before, just to see what tickets had been opened. And as I mentioned, the ones around the streetlights were opened. There were a couple around graffiti. There was one around an abandoned house. Oh, Beth is on the phone. Good. And then, you know, there's just a variety of things. And it's always helpful for resources to make sure that we, you know, kind of use the city processes as best we can. And then we can alert Nancy and Beth, you know, when we have a critical mass, perhaps, as well as the city liaison officers with the Columbus Police Department, you know, so that they can engage. For instance, one of the property owners on the east side of Parsons mentioned a problematic part of their neighborhood where drug trafficking and illegal behavior was causing some issues for the business owners that were within a block of that space. And so we did reach out to Officer Peck and make sure that that was on the Columbus Police Department's radar, to make sure that those business owners know that they should be calling the non-emergency line or making police reports when they see those kinds of things, because it is those things that drive not only the Columbus Police resources, the Department of Neighborhoods outreach into the other city departments that have responsibilities for things like streetlights, as an example. And there was another one that I was going to mention. Anyway, that it's through the reporting and kind of the consistent communication, that we get attention to some of the topics that we've been discussing. And certainly there's a street tree initiative. I believe that went to City Council on Monday to invest in additional street trees across the city, but in the south side, it's especially east of Parsons, but also on Parsons. And so they do have the list of gaps on Parsons Avenue itself. And as it shouldn't surprise anyone, there are more gaps on the east side of Parsons than on the west side of Parsons. So we want all of our businesses and all parts of the south side to have equal support, and for all of us to care about all of Parsons, not just the neighborhoods where we live. Beth, did you want to add anything now that you're on? I don't know if you're able to come off. There you are.
Good morning, everybody. No, I don't have anything to add. I'm just here to listen, and thanks for, continuing to send me your concerns. So.
All right, thank you. All right, the second topic that we've been discussing a little bit is around events. And Stephen and I spoke about this, but the executive board also spoke about it, and I've spoken about it to a couple other groups. And so engaging in individual business owners is important, but also kind of having a collective communication around events on Parsons Avenue around the south side. So a week from Saturday, the Ganther's Place Civic Association is hosting the Chocolate Hop on Parsons Avenue. And so there will be a variety of businesses open, and it will be starting at Community Grounds Coffee House, which is also on Parsons. And they will have a shuttle that will migrate the avenue and will make stops at participating businesses. So that list of businesses is on Facebook, and let's see if I can bring that up quickly. So that's one area where we want to be able to, when other areas host events, we want to be able to participate in those and amplify them. So that's the first event that we have on the avenue for the year. Obviously, masking is required because the city is still under a mask mandate. But we do want to, we want anyone who is available to participate and to there we go, on the list, and to kind of join in. So, and if you own a property and you want to, encourage your businesses that are tenants of your property, it's always good to engage them also. So here's the current list of businesses that are participating in that event on the a week from Saturday. So that's the first event. The Avenue for All event, which last year was in August, has been moved to June 11th. So the planning for that will start what happened in last year's Avenue for All was they did close off 2 blocks of Parsons Avenue. They brought in a lot of the nonprofit communications. They had music. I think they had face painting. They had a variety of businesses open. There was a passport with participating businesses on Parsons Avenue, where you could get a passport stamp and you could turn that back in for a small gift certificate or credit. So we will be participating in the June 11th Avenue for All event. I would like to, talk about how we can expand our participation, engaging the businesses, perhaps hosting a small business expo for those businesses on the south side that don't have a storefront. And there are a lot of those, it turns out. And then perhaps participating with the Bulldog Bash in August, which is a back to school event that the South High School group participates in, and then maybe something around the holidays. But we would also want to amplify any other events happening, including like the African American Wellness Walk, which Nationwide Children's hosts, and I would call it any event that's not just, Trivia Tuesday or, Bingo Monday, anything that's, more of an event. And I do see coming in the near future additional venues perhaps that might be hosting additional events, and encouraging any use of space on Parsons that's able to host events to do so. So that's kind of the second area that kind of has come out of some of the conversations I've had. So I'm kind of interested if people have any thoughts on that topic and whether that's a desirable, way to amplify communication and that drives more attendance to events in and around Parsons Avenue. Y'all are a quiet group today.
I'm muted, sorry. So just I can give some additional background, but then just to be able to clarify, I know you said African American Male Wellness Walk, and that is in fact put on by that committee, and Nationwide Children's, it just starts in front of the hospital. We're just a continued partner for it. But you did mention as these lists will continue to grow, I do represent the Board of All People Arts, and we are looking for similar things that we can collaborate on. So in the last board meeting, one of the things I did bring up was a potential working with PAMA and being able to grow those partnerships, as I know collaboration is key. And we know that collaboration within our city continues to grow the interest in the Parsons Avenue area and the South Side in general. So that would be something I would look forward to.
That reminds me, I think there's a 5K also that Parsons North Brewing Company is supporting. I think it's the very end of April or the very 1st of May. So that's just another event. I've heard people ask before, like, why don't we have any, 5Ks or 10Ks or, active activities. The Bikes for All People has hosted some like biking groups, right, that kind of ride into various places on the south side. So there's a variety of both kind of for-profit and nonprofit activities like Carla mentioned, and that that we would want to to kind of engage around. So what other ideas? So these are the ones I've, kind of been thinking about, and, based on the conversations I've been having with some of you on the phone and other, others of you that may have your own ideas for ways that we should be spending PAMA's, time and energy.
Yeah, Kathy, when I think about it, I think about doing these, like this chocolate hop, the smaller events, but eventually getting up to a big what you and I talked about, a big block party, an annual block party. But I think in order to get to that, we do need to work together to figure out some smaller events and make sure we handle those in a fashion that puts, you know, Parsons in a positive light. So I hadn't really put a lot of thought into the different types of events, but this chocolate hop is a good idea. So I think as business owners, we need to get together and figure out some different events we can do on a smaller scale that builds up to a big event.
And I don't know who on the phone has been the most engaged with PAMA over the long haul. Donna's certainly not on the phone. She tends to be somewhat of our historian. But the way I understand it, back before the NCR program even existed, when it was, you know, Parsons Avenue Merchants Association, they used to have a big carnival on the avenue, and it was a very big, you know, a big event with a lot of fun activities, if you will, for the neighborhoods. And so, you know, the more we can engage the neighbors, and you know, we have so many new people coming in and out of the South Side. You know, we need to raise our visibility, I think, so that people are even aware of what's possible, and certainly filling in some of the missing teeth, which is our topic for last month. I think that only helps us, right? Where we have more businesses, we have more people coming to those businesses, we have people feeling safe to walk their dogs, to take their children in their strollers, and you know, and actually traverse Parsons in a pedestrian friendly way, as well as supporting alternative transportation, so that it's not just cars, you know, kind of racing back and forth, you know, in the morning or in the evening.
I can definitely back up what you're saying about PAMA in the past. Nationwide Children's Hospital, we were supporting, I believe, something that was equivalent to a car show. And it had carnival-like activities that were involved in it. And also the participation from many businesses on the avenue. Going back to a prior statement that you had, or question that you had posed, that we had slightly went to the next topic. You were asking, you know, what do we see for Parsons, and being able to envision it. You know, as being a Parsons Avenue trustee, being a park board member, and a Nationwide Children's Hospital community relations representative, definitely growth and development is of most importance. You know, being within community engagement and realizing that the larger your list of being able to work with as many businesses as possible, and we all help each other. So, you know, just a better, a beautiful, more active Parsons Avenue. I think that's what we all will continue to strive for.
And Sherry put in the chat that she wants to expand their business to better meet the needs of the Southside consumers. You know, and that has been a topic in the past, right? We started with a conversation around, you know, who are the Southside consumers? And Aaron and Lisa worked on, you know, using Esri data to kind of develop a demographic population of that. And we have talked about putting that kind of data online. There's ways to make the Esri data available perhaps at a more granular level, right? So that if your business is, you know, further south versus, you know, closer to Nationwide Children's, your 1 mile or half mile radius is different, right? Because Parsons itself is about 1 mile long, give or take. So the problem, as I remember, and I don't know if Aaron, if you're still on, is the Esri data is not necessarily accurate anymore. Do you want to make any comments on that topic?
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt after reviewing it the last time, which has been a while. It didn't really represented a Parsons of the past, not the present, or, you know, the Parsons that we all see and know today. And certainly isn't representative of the trends that are happening on both sides of Parsons, I felt.
Yeah. And obviously, there's the census data and the community reinvestment, area, abatement policies and so on, that are kind of in a different part of the city government. I guess it will be interesting, Sherry. That might be a good topic for the small business agenda, and for Council Member Bankston's staff is, how can businesses on the avenue determine the best fit as the neighborhoods are changing? I do think that that's a very interesting topic that we could perhaps draw some additional resources to. I don't know that PAMA necessarily has the right set of resources to do that, but I do think it's a very valuable tool. I don't know, Erin, you're probably as active as anybody with data and the city data and so on. Do you have any further thoughts on what parts of the city?
I don't. It is not something I've done a good job of keeping up with since the last time we did it. I feel like it probably would be a better conversation to have with the neighborhood design center, and they would have a better pulse on what other parts of the city are doing or might be more valuable than my experience to date.
Okay, and Curtis, I know you have a lot of conversations with a variety of sizes of businesses, perhaps those looking to land in some of the bigger developments that are happening. And I know that they do their own retail studies. Do you have any thoughts on how we could leverage any of that kind of data?
Well, I think that the City Economic Development Department has probably done some type of, wide cast, study or something, or had someone do a survey or something, and that might be via the neighborhood design center. So that might be something to ask Lisa if economic development has done. I know they do the Parsons part, but I would assume that they also have done something with all the larger commercial properties and everything. They know what's there, or maybe even One Columbus has done that and has an ability to give us that list and everything.
Okay. Yeah, so we could definitely take that conversation back and engage through the new small business coordinator that the city is onboarding now, as well as I mentioned, city council's staff, and they can maybe help us figure out, and then obviously Lisa and Isabella at the Neighborhood Design Center, and see how we can surface that conversation. I appreciate bringing a new perspective there. Any other thoughts people have? Apologize that we weren't able to have a broader NCR conversation. We will continue to try to learn best practices from some of the other business associations, some of the other NCR districts. I did double check on the Brewery District, which is on one of our boundaries. Their business association seems a bit in hibernation, I'll use that term, probably COVID, right? The German Village business community is just restarting. And again, that's another boundary that we have, right, between, parts of the South Side and German Village. And then we've also been kind of looking at the Livingston Avenue corridor itself, which is partly in the South Side and mostly in the Livingston Avenue Commission area. So we have opportunities both through the Children's Hospital Good Neighbor Agreement meetings, as well as, commission to commission to look at some of these shared areas. I guess I'll use that term, right? And it's not always an NCR program. It may be another business association that's on our boundaries that we can, that we can get together with and learn best practices from, so that we can kind of maximize our regional efforts and not, I think our businesses on Parsons would like to draw, from all of those areas, not just, what's traditionally the Columbus South Side area. So thoughts on that? Any engagement that folks have in some of those other areas? I know, Carla, you do, right? We've discussed that. So. All right, anyone have a topic that they would like to cover next month? It probably is too early for the small business coordinator at the city to be put on the spot, I would say, even though she has quite a history with the Columbus State. And we have had Columbus State at our stakeholders meetings prior when we were in person. But other thoughts on topics?
You could have a review of the monument community feedback and review our art up and down the avenue, since we've got some art boxes wrapped now and we have a monument and things like that happening.
Yeah, I don't know if it's immediate, Kathy, but when I hear you talk about the other neighborhood organizations, I do think about meeting with them and seeing what kind of common interests we have to make sure, not necessarily that we're on the same page, but at least going in the same direction. So that, I don't know if that's an immediate or something we can put down the line to make sure we're working with, because we want Parsons to be successful, but overall we want Columbus to be successful. So why not reach out and work together to make that happen?
Great. Thanks for that feedback. And Aaron, and Carla, maybe you can connect. I know there's a new All People's Arts director since I last met with All People's Arts. So maybe we can reconnect on that topic.
Sure. Yeah, we've had some reorganization within All People Arts and some new individuals come on board. So no, I think that would be a great idea.
And obviously some of the residential groups are also very interested in art. Obviously the building at the corner of Reinhardt and Parsons that used to have a mural on it before it was repainted because of damage to the facade that had to be repaired under city code enforcement. I know Marion Village is investing perhaps in some art, and so we have, it's good to re-engage both the civics who have their own resources and the business owners and the community stakeholders like All People's Arts. So both of those topics we'll try to bring to the next meetings. And anyone watching this on YouTube after the fact, either you can use the comments in YouTube or send an email directly to parsonsarea@gmail.com. And we can kind of bring those ideas and thoughts kind of again to the board, but also into the next stakeholders meetings. And if anyone knows of anyone who's not on our email list that would like to be added, please also just let me know directly. The more businesses we get actively involved, the better we're all going to be in the long run. So personally going to be participating in the chocolate hop, and I do know most of these businesses already, but some we can always do better, right? So and some are newer, right? Obsessive Touch is in our building. Good Grip Tires is newer. So it's good to engage both existing and long-term, anchor businesses on the avenue as well as the newer ones. So we appreciate all of them. And certainly Ace Hardware has been an active supporter of the chocolate hop and the previous iterations of the How Sweet It Is, as has the Rent-A-Center. So, well, if anyone has anything else, please let us know. If anyone has anything else they'd like to share right now, speak up. And otherwise, I'll call the meeting to close. All right, well, we will have a topic for March, and thanks again for the suggestions. And if you think of something afterwards, reach out. Appreciate all of you and hope you don't get too much snow and ice damage in the next few days. So appreciate you. All right, take care.
Thank you, Kathy. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.